on relationship, I wanted to speak about the second killer of relationships. Have a listen.
I'll let you in on a secret. You'll never win an argument with your spouse. I used to teach a negotiation class at a law school. I called it the problem of the lemon. So you've got two people and they both want the lemon and there's only one lemon. And so what's the best way to solve that problem?
Give one of them an orange.
No, you got one lemon. That's all you got, and they each want a lemon. What's the best way to solve the problem?
Cut it.
Cut the lemon in half, right? Okay. One of them wants the rind for baking. The other one wants the juice to make lemonade.
Oh.
They could both have 100% of what they wanted if someone just stopped and said, why do you want the lemon? But nobody does. Nobody does. Everybody just goes, well, there's only one lemon and we both want it, so let's just cut it in half. And then they both get one half when they could have had 100% of what they needed. I'll let you in.
And so I really wanted to speak about the second killer that I've seen in relationships. The second killer in relationships. Now, in this particular video, I thought it was pretty interesting what some of the comments had to say. I thought that is a brilliant analogy. You could have literally had everything you wanted, or both could have had what they wanted and been happy if they had just stopped to ask why. But why didn't they ask why? What was the one thing that was preventing them from asking why? And this comment, I want to read it to you in this particular short. It said, a relationship is like Dungeons and Dragons. For those of you who are gamers or who play games, it says you play together, you don't play against each other. But if one loses, then everybody does. And I think that this is a perfect comment to really explain and encapsulate what I'm trying to say, is that when you have pride, which I have seen over and over and over again, pride creeping into relationships, pride creeping into the hearts of people and couples who are in a relationship, it breeds competition. You're competing against the other person. You want to be better than the other person. And you might not even know that this is what you're actually doing. You might not even know that you're competing against your partner and treating them as an opponent, because you're not even aware that secretly pride is taking over your heart. And when he gave this example of this lemon analogy, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Because it was me, I must win, I must have. Well, you can't have everything. You split it in half and get half when you could have gotten 100%. But if you had the attitude of just humility, of just asking why, and of not keeping record, of not having me, then perhaps maybe a lot of the arguments that couples experience in relationships don't even have to happen. There's a beautiful saying that says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but pride also comes before a fall. And we often look at pride and consider it in terms of people in very big, amazing CEO positions, or like a king, for example, there on, my thumbnail. But the truth is that the biggest issue, or the second, I think, in my opinion, killer of marriages is pride. Either sometimes you've labored with a partner, they get a promotion, and then they start to be exposed to things that is better, used to have more options, and then they think they're better than you. All of it is pride. Or sometimes you get bored in a relationship, you get idle, you think you could do better. It's pride. All of these things really creep into the relationship and starts to destroy the vine, and you won't even notice when you're doing it. So I just wanted to speak about that specifically today, because it breeds competition. So it's almost like pride and competition are going hand in hand in your relationship. When you have the attitude, I have to win this argument, I have to be right. Okay, if you're asking yourself, okay, while I'm speaking, okay, but I am right though, then already I'd ask you to check your heart, because is the point really about being right, or is it about collaboration? And sometimes the idea of having to compromise, or the idea of having to back down, feels so hard for you, then perhaps, yep, you're probably struggling with the issue of pride, and you should ask yourself why. So defining pride, what is pride? In case you're like, okay, but that doesn't mean that I want to be a walkover. No, that's not what I'm saying. But let's just say pride, refusing to admit fault, always needing to be right, turning conversations into debates, competition, keeping score, refusing to compromise, or seeing vulnerability as weakness. You have pride. You have pride. I'm sorry, you have pride if you have these issues, or if these things are creeping into your heart. Now, I know that sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want your partner to necessarily be better, or it doesn't mean that you won't have heated arguments and you won't have debates. Sometimes it's fun to have debates, and then, because opposites attract, and you and your partner have completely different views and stuff. But when it comes to something that can either take the relationship forward or backwards, your determination to be right can sometimes be the very reason why the relationship ends. Okay, you're not in competition with each other. You're actually in partnership. And it's so much easier said than done. But the truth is, it's these little things. It plays itself out in the little things. Okay, you want the toothpaste this way, but you want the toothpaste that way. Like, is it really, really that important? And when you don't learn to let it humble yourself in small things, it plays itself out in financial decisions, because then perhaps ego could come in. Cultural pride could come in. Well, I'm the man and I'm supposed to handle finances, when maybe perhaps your wife studied finance and has more strategies than you. But because you're so attached to ego, you fail to see the partnership. Or as a woman, you think that no, but I'm supposed to be the one that is better at handling and communicating with the kids, and then you start to compete with your husband, or you feel like you should go out there and have a career and start competing with your husband. And the fact of the matter is, competing to what end? To prove to who? To people that don't even like you, And so I always say that, yes, cultural things are important. Yes, absolutely. Traditions, some practices that have been passed down to us are very important. But if it comes at the expense of what works out for you and what is relevant in your time and in your situation, then you are allowing pride to eat away at your marriage for no reason other than the fact that you're worried about what it's going to look like to other people. Other people who are not going to feel the impact more than you if something ever had to happen to your spouse. Other people who are not going to feel the impact more than you if something had to happen to the mother or the father of your kids. And so these are little things that I can see that it's pride that always creeps into relationships. And it's really deadly, because then it builds walls, and it blocks the potential of repair. It blocks intimacy. It really destroys team effort, and you end up becoming rivals instead of partners in this really tough game and this war called life. Okay, don't let pride destroy your relationship. Now, there are 3 ways that you can stop it, and I call it the I was wrong reset. Now, I'm saying this not because I think I'm perfect. I'm actually saying this because I have seen that this has actually been one of the most challenging things, not just even in marriages, but in relationships. To admit that you're wrong. It is an ongoing journey that you're constantly going to have to be doing with yourself. And I'm constantly still on that journey too. The moment you think you've arrived, that's the moment you should know that you've begun to fall, because there's always room for improvement. So simple tests, just 3 things. I was wrong. I'm sorry. At least once a week. Even if it's small, it disarms pride. It shows safety, and you can start with low stakes, like I said, with small things. And when you practice this, because sometimes we think that we just grow up and these things are just easy to do. But no, if you are not used to saying sorry, you didn't just wake up and become like that. You built a habit of not saying sorry and getting away with it. But if in the little things you can train yourself to start saying sorry, or admit that I was wrong, or even just let something go because it's really not that important, you are building a habit, a good habit. And you start with something small so that when it comes to the bigger things, it's easier to let it go, or it's easier to navigate those murky waters of the tough conversations of finances, of how do we raise children, of how do we interact with in-laws, how do we interact if you're in different cultural marriages, how do we interact? You building a solid foundation and a good habit for when those big storms come. The second thing is me versus you. If you are selfish, you are absolutely not going to make it in a relationship. You are going to suffer. You're going to bring the other person down with you. You are also going to be absolutely destroyed in the relationship. Marriage is not for selfish people. It is not for a me. It is a we game. It is a we argument. And then daily team appreciation. Just, the little things that you are grateful for, the things that you appreciate in the other person, the things that you appreciate in your spouse. So pride and competition can feel like strength, but it's really not. It's the quickest way to destroy your marriage. So tomorrow we'll just speak a little bit more about the things that destroy a marriage and what you can do to fix it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. What are some of the things and some of the examples in marriages where you've actually seen people just destroyed just because they wanted to hold on to their resentment, their anger, and their pride? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. And once again, welcome to another episode on Pokes on Relationships.